Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
We are continuing our journey through the Atlas CMMS User Guide, the 2024 Rev 1.0. Now, if you've been following along, you know we've covered getting the system up, some initial setup stuff.
That's right, the basis.
Today, we're really getting into the meat of it.
Right.
We're tackling three absolutely core pillars for actually managing maintenance effectively.
The foundational pieces.
Exactly. Location management, parts and inventory, and assets management. We're going deep into pages 38 to 65 of the guide.
Yeah.
Our mission here is to pull out those, crucial nuggets, the stuff that tells you not just what button to click, but why it's set up that way and how to really leverage these core functions.
And they really are fundamental. I mean, think about it. These three areas, they're completely interconnected.
Right.
You can't manage maintenance well if you don't know where the asset is, what the asset is, and what parts you need to fix it, plus where those parts are.
Totally. Getting these right seems like the bedrock for making the whole CMSS actually work for you.
It is. It's the key to achieving, what the guide calls maintenance excellence.
Okay, let's unpack this then, starting with locations. The guide mentions locations, obviously, but it's more than just an address list, isn't it? What's the critical structure here?
It is. While the basic definition on page 38 is just, physical places, the real power, the structural element, is that parent location, child location hierarchy.
Okay, hierarchy. Tell us more about that.
So think of a parent location as a big area, like a whole manufacturing plant, maybe an office building, or even a university campus.
Gotcha. Broad areas.
Exactly. Then child locations are nested inside those.
Yeah.
So the more specific spots, individual rooms, floors, specific production lines, departments, zones, whatever makes sense for your layout.
Right.
The guide gives that example, right? Manufacturing plant 1 as the parent, containing a main office building as a child, which then contains the third floor as another child level down.
Like nesting folders.
Yeah.
Or, like floors in a building.
Precisely. It's about mapping your real-world physical structure into the system.
Okay, so it mirrors reality. But how does taking the time to build out this detailed hierarchy actually help the maintenance manager day to day? What's the payoff?
Yeah, it's huge. Precision. That's the main thing.
Precision.
Yeah. You can pinpoint exactly where maintenance is needed. You know exactly where specific assets live. You might even track inventory down to a specific storeroom location using this.
Okay.
And that precision flows directly into reporting and analysis. It's vital for that.
How so?
Well, imagine your costs are high. The hierarchy lets you see where they're high. Is it the whole plant? Or just, that one problematic HVAC unit on the third floor of the main office building at Plant 1.
Right, that specific example from page 38. It lets you drill down.
Exactly. That granularity makes finding root causes and allocating resources way more effective.
Okay, that makes sense. And getting to this information, page 39 says it's just through the main menu. Pretty standard access.
Yep, straightforward access on the left menu. Once you're in the Locations module, you've got a couple ways to view things.
Like what?
Well, there's the list view. That's your typical table. And it clearly shows that parent-child structure, with indentations.
Okay. Standard list.
But then there's also a map view. And this is really useful, especially for organizations with multiple sites spread out geographically.
Ah, so you can see them on a map. Like for dispatching techs.
Exactly that. Or just getting a visual overview of where your facilities are. Pages 39 forward cover those views.
Now here's where I think it gets really powerful. Once you select a specific location, you drill down into its details. What else can you see or manage right from there? It's not just the address, is it?
Oh, much more. The detailed location view is kind of like a mini dashboard for that specific place. Pages 41 to 44 outline this.
Okay. What's on the dashboard?
You get tabs. You can see and manage all the assets registered to that location. You can create work orders directly for that location right there.
Landy.
You can attach and view floor plans, and you can even manage the people associated with it, maybe the supervisor for that area or the assigned maintenance team.
So it connects all the dots for that physical space.
Right. It centralizes oversight for that location's operational integrity, as the guide puts it. Helps you manage everything connected to that spot without bouncing around the system.
That integration sounds key. Okay, how do you actually get these locations into Atlas CMMS if you're setting up a new site or maybe reorganizing?
2 main routes, as usual, with this kind of system. Manual creation is one.
Just fill out a form?
Yep. Click a button, fill in the details for the new location. That's on pages 44, 45. Fine if you're just adding 1 or 2.
But for lots of locations.
Then you'll want the import from a template feature. Pages 45, 46. You fill out a spreadsheet with all your locations and upload it.
Ah, the bulk import. But you mentioned that hierarchy is important here.
Critically important. When you prepare that import file, you have to list parent locations before their child locations.
Why is that?
Because the system needs to find the parent's record first to link the child to it when it processes the file. If you list a child before its parent exists in the file or the system, the import will likely fail for that entry or mess up the structure.
Got it. Order matters. Parent first, then children.
Absolutely. And of course, page 46 also mentions you can easily modify details of any existing location whenever you need to.
Okay, solid foundation on the where. Let's shift gears to what the actual physical items you need for maintenance, parts and inventory. Also in the main menu, page 46 points out.
Correct.
Once you're in that module, what are the options for viewing your parts list?
Again, a couple of views. There's the list view, your classic table format. Page 47 shows it with columns like name, cost, quantity on hand, barcode, area or location where it's stored, category, description, all the key data points.
Standard stuff. What else?
There's also a card view, page 48. I find this one quite useful visually.
How so?
Each part gets its own card with an image, the name, part number, maybe the quantity. It's great for quickly identifying common items you recognize by sight.
Yeah, I can see that being helpful. Faster recognition.
And obviously, page 47 mentions you can always search the list too. Standard search bar functionality.
Okay, so let's say you find the part you're looking for and click on it. What kind of detail does the system give you on that specific items page?
The detailed view, starting on page 48, is pretty comprehensive. You get the parts image right up top, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Then the essential details. Name, part ID or number, description, category it belongs to. Then financial info cost per unit is crucial.
Definitely for job costing.
Exactly. And inventory details like the current quantity on hand and that important minimum quantity threshold for reordering.
The reorder point.
Yes. Plus, where it's stored, the area, maybe a specific bin number, and its barcode information. That's all laid out on pages 48, 49.
So beyond just the basic specs of the part itself, what other context does that detail page give you? Does it link to, like, where it's been used?
It does, and this is where the system really starts connecting things. Page 49 highlights this. You can see associated work orders, a history of which jobs consumed that part.
Useful for tracking usage?
Very. You can also see which assets that part is typically assigned to or used on. And you can access related files, think datasheets, manuals, safety information, installation guides, whatever you've attached.
So it really builds a picture of that part's life within your maintenance operation.
Exactly. It helps you understand consumption patterns, which is critical for planning.
Right. And speaking of planning, let's talk about running low. That's always a pain point. How does Atlas CMMS help you spot potential shortages before they happen?
It uses that minimum quantity threshold you set for each part. Page 49 explains that the system is designed to flag items when their quantity drops below that level.
How does it flag them?
You might see a visual indicator, like the guide's example running low, next to, say, oil filters. It's a prompt to take action.
Okay, so you get the alert. What should happen then? And more importantly, what does the guide suggest for preventing those shortages in the first place?
Well, the immediate action when you see that flag is usually for the system or a user to notify whoever handles purchasing or inventory management to get a reorder started. That's page 49.
Standard procedure, but to minimize it happening.
Page 50 gives some best practices. Setting appropriate reorder points is number one. Don't just guess.
Right.
Analyze your historical usage patterns. The CMMS data helps here. Try to predict future needs and, crucially, maintain accurate inventory records. Garbage in, garbage out,
Absolutely. And page 55 adds some good points on setting that minimum quantity, right? It's not arbitrary.
Exactly. It says you need to consider the part's consumption rate, how fast you use them. The supplier's minimum order quantity, or MOQ, you might have to order 50, even if you only need 10. And, importantly, the order-to-delivery cycle time.
Lead time.
Precisely. If it takes 2 weeks to get filters, and you use 10 a week, setting your minimum at 5 is, well, not going to work, is it?
No, you'll run out long before the new ones arrive. Makes sense. Okay, how do we get all these parts into the system to begin with?
Very similar process to locations. You've got manual creation covered on pages 51, 52. You fill out a detailed form for each individual part.
What kind of details?
Name, description, category, cost, the initial quantity you have, that minimum quantity threshold we just talked about, barcode, storage area, or bin. You can even assign responsible workers, teams, or preferred vendors right there.
And attach files, too, like images.
Yep, page 52 mentions attaching images or relevant documents directly to the part record.
Okay, that's for adding them one by one. What about adding hundreds?
That's where the import from template option comes in again, pages 52, 54. Fill out the spreadsheet, upload it, and bam, bulk part creation.
Standard import and modifying existing parts.
Simple enough. Find the part, click on it, and use the edit part form to update whatever details you need. Page 55 covers that.
Now, here's something on page 56 that sounds really useful for efficiency. Creating sets of parts. What's the idea behind grouping parts together like this?
Ah, yes, sets. Think of them like prepackaged kits for specific jobs.
Kits.
Yeah. A set is basically a predefined collection of different parts that are commonly used together for a particular task or maybe an assembly. Page 56 defines it that way.
Okay, I could see how that might be useful. What are the main benefits?
They're significant, actually. Streamline maintenance, for one. The tech grabs the engine PM set, knows they have everything, oil, filter, gasket, whatever's in it. Fewer trips back to the storeroom.
Efficiency gain right there.
Big time. It also simplifies inventory management somewhat because you can track the usage of the set concept, though the system deducts individual parts. It ensures consistency. Everyone uses the same approved parts for that job. And it can help optimize your kitting process if you pre-assemble these sets in the storeroom. Page 56 lists these benefits.
The guide gives an example, right? Like a yearly maintenance kit.
Yeah, page 57 uses the example engine preventive yearly maintenance set, which might bundle the specific oil needed, the right filters, maybe some spark plugs or gaskets. Perfect example.
Okay, that is clever. So when a technician uses one of these sets on a work order, how does the inventory count get updated? Does it just subtract one set?
Good question. No, it's smarter than that, and this is important for accurate tracking. Page 57 clarifies this. When a work order using a set is completed, the system automatically deducts the correct quantity of each individual component part listed within that set from your inventory totals.
Okay, so it depletes the individual items.
Correct. And it also calculates and adds the total cost of all those consumed components to the work order's cost.
That's one way quantities get updated then, automatically through work orders. What about when new stock arrives?
That's typically a manual update. Pages 58-59 cover this. You locate the part in the system, access its details, go into the edit part form, and simply update the quantity field to reflect the new arrivals.
So manual receiving, automatic consumption tracking.
Mostly, yes. Though some systems might integrate with purchasing or scanners for more automation, but the core idea is keeping that quantity accurate, whether manually or automatically. Page 59 really stresses how vital that accuracy is for planning, avoiding those stockouts, and having reliable financial reporting on maintenance costs.
Absolutely crucial. Okay, we've covered the where locations and the what parts. Let's unpack the final pillar for today, the actual things we maintain, assets. What exactly falls under assets in Atlas CMMS?
Basically, assets are all the physical things your organization is responsible for maintaining. Page 59 lists examples like equipment, machinery, vehicles, buildings, infrastructure components. If you fix it, it's probably an asset.
Got it. And just like locations, I see here there's a hierarchy concept. Parent asset, child asset.
Yes, exactly. Pages 59-60 explain this. It works the same way. A child asset is a component or a subsystem that's part of a larger parent asset.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think of a large production line as the parent asset. The individual pumps, motors, conveyor belts, and sensors on that line could be set up as child assets.
Or maybe a vehicle as the parent and its engine or transmission as children.
Perfect example. That structure reflects the physical assembly or system relationship.
So building out this asset hierarchy, what are the main advantages of doing that in the CMMS? Why bother linking them?
Several key advantages, according to pages 59-60. First, it improves asset tracking. You know exactly which components belong to which larger system.
Okay, makes sense.
Second, it really helps with maintenance planning. A major overhaul work order on the parent production line might automatically trigger related preventive maintenance tasks for its critical child pumps and motors.
Interconnected planning.
Right. Third, it just provides a clear hierarchical view of how your equipment fits together, showing dependencies. If a child component fails, you immediately see what parent system is impacted. And finally, and this is really powerful, it allows for data aggregation. You can roll up maintenance costs, track downtime hours, and view work order history from all the child assets to see the total picture for the parent asset.
So you get insights into the entire system's performance and cost, not just individual bits and pieces.
Exactly. Total cost of ownership, system reliability, those kinds of insights become much clearer.
Okay, accessing the assets list, also main menu, page 60 says. How does the view handle showing that hierarchy?
Typically, the main assets list is a table, like the others, but page 60 notes there's usually a specific hierarchy column, often with little arrows or plus signs next to parent assets.
The expandable sections.
Yep, you click the arrow and it expands to show the child assets nested underneath, right there in the list. It visualizes the structure nicely. And of course, there's a search function to find assets quickly.
Makes sense. Getting the assets in there initially, same story as locations and parts. Manual or import.
You got it. Two main options again. Manual creation, pages 61, 62. You click something like plus asset, fill out the form name, maybe serial number, location. And crucially, if it's a child asset, you specify its parent asset to build that link.
Right, defining the relationship.
Yes. Or, for adding many assets at once, you use the import from a template feature, detailed on pages 63, 65.
And I bet the hierarchy rule applies here too. Parents before children in the template.
Absolutely critical. Page 65 emphasizes this again. List parent assets before their child assets in the spreadsheet file. The system needs to create the parent first.
Any other key tips for importing assets?
Page 65 mentions a couple more useful points. There's often an archived column in the template.
Archived? For what?
This lets you import data for assets that are no longer in service, maybe decommissioned equipment. Setting them as archived means they won't clutter your active asset lists or get included in day-to-day operational reports. But the historical data, costs, work orders, is still kept in the system.
Oh, useful for historical analysis or compliance, maybe.
Exactly. And the other point is language. Make sure the language used in your template matches the language setting of your Atlas CMMS instance to avoid import errors.
Good practical tip. And finally, if you need to change something about an asset later, move it, update its status.
Simple edit process. Page 65 explains you just locate the asset in the list, click on its row or maybe an edit icon, and that opens the edit asset form where you can update any of the fields as needed.
Wow. Okay. We have definitely covered some serious ground today. That was a deep dive into those really foundational areas.
It was. Locations, parts, assets, the core building block.
Yeah, we unpacked location management, seeing how that parent-child hierarchy isn't just admin, it's key for mirroring your physical world and getting granular reporting. Then we tackled parts and inventory viewing, tracking, managing shortages, and those really handy sets of parts for efficiency.
Streamlining the work.
And finally, assets management, exploring its own hierarchy, how it maps out your equipment, and how it enables that crucial roll-up of data for performance insights.
Yeah, getting that structure right is vital.
And it seems clear, both from the guide and just common sense in maintenance, that mastering these sections is fundamental. It's not just about listing things.
Not at all.
It's about structuring your world, managing your resources properly, and really laying the groundwork for making informed, data-driven decisions later on. The guide mentions that towards the end, too.
And the absolutely critical thing to remember, the thread tying it all together, is how interconnected they are.
Right. You said that at the start.
Yeah. They aren't silos. Your assets live at locations. Maintaining those assets requires parts from inventory, which might also be stored at locations.
It's all linked.
Totally. If your location data is sloppy, you don't know where your asset truly is. If your asset hierarchy isn't built out, you can't accurately track part consumption against a whole system. The quality you put into setting up and maintaining the accuracy of these three areas, that directly determines the quality and the value of all the maintenance data you get out of the CMMS.
Garbage in, garbage out, like you said.
It really is the foundation. Get this right, and you unlock the potential for real insights. Get it wrong, and you're just collecting noisy data.
So here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Consider the upfront effort. How much future pain, how many missed insights could you avoid by really taking the time now to define your locations meticulously, detail your parts with accurate costs and reorder logic, and structure that asset hierarchy thoughtfully to reflect reality?
Think about the long game.
Yeah. What performance secrets might be waiting to be uncovered a year down the road just because you built this solid foundation today?
Yeah.
Definitely something to consider as you work with Atlas or any CMMS, really.
Good point to end on.
All right, that wraps up this deep dive. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll catch you next time for another exploration of complex topics made, hopefully, a little clearer.